Hey y'all, it's Henry here at the Newbie Christian, and I'm glad to be back. Today, we're going to be talking about stage 3, the promise. Now, stage 3 has a lot going on with it. You have Abraham, you have Isaac, you have Jacob, you have Joseph, you have the nation of Israel being established, and its bloodline, but also what's going on in history. And so, we're going to just briefly talk about what's going on in this huge section of the Bible. So first, we have Abraham, originally called Abram. God calls him out of Mesopotamia, and he says, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to bless the world through you. Now, Abram at this time is really old, and his wife is really old, beyond the years of being able to have children. And imagine God comes to you, and he's like, hey, I'm going to do this really impossible thing through your life. Well, that happened to Abram, sorry. And then eventually God changed his name to Abraham, and then his children, we're going to skip a few generations, we get to Israel, who was originally Jacob, who is the son of Isaac. So you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but Jacob's name changes to Israel, and then his sons become the 12 tribes of Israel. And so I want to talk briefly about what goes on here. So God has called a people out of the nations. So remember, in the beginning, God created humanity so he could dwell with them, but then things go wrong. And so then at the Tower of Babel, which we haven't really talked about, but go read this in Genesis 6, the humanity is defying God again and again and again. And then finally God says, I'm going to disperse them because they're not listening to me. And then I advise you to go and read that. But then you see out of that, out of this rebellion, out of this chaos, God calls Abraham. And God says, this man I'm going to build a nation out of, and the world will be blessed through him. And so then you have the story of the Israelites all throughout history and throughout the Old Testament, from Genesis 12 all the way to Malachi. And so what I really want you to see is that God is desiring to dwell with people. He went to the extent of calling someone out of this great rebellion and says, I'm going to bless the world through you. Even though the world has rebelled against him, has gone against him, has gone opposed his ways, but God says, I will bless the world. And so I just want you to remember that. So remember, as we go through this stage, it's huge. So I've abbreviated a lot of content into less than a 5-minute video. And there's a lot. You could talk about the kings, you could talk about the judges, you could talk about the prophets. But for now, I just want you to see the main focus was that God called someone out of the rebellion, out of this great chaos of people going against God. God says, but I'm going to bless the world through you. And he says that to Abraham. So that's where we're at today in the story of the Bible. I hope that you see that. And I really encourage you, go read Acts 7. Right before Stephen gets stoned, he recounts this to the people who are about to kill him. And so just take your time, read the scriptures, and be blessed by this. I love you. Can't wait to see you again. God bless.